Isn't it a blessing to be seeing Max and Mariella back around?
It is a blessing to be back, I tell you.
It's good to know that when you're gone, you're missed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so we love you, brother. Thank you.
Mariella is much easier to get along with when she comes to church, too. It's been over a year. You realize that, don't you? Mariella's been out of church a year. I used to say she'd do anything in the world to get out of church. I don't joke about that anymore. We're studying the 10 Commandments, and Pastor has been leading us in that discussion. So I'd have to start by telling you, you got to give me an A for courage to stand up here after the eloquent lessons we've heard from the pastor. I appreciate his teaching. I know you do too. He's a good teacher. But the 8th commandment today, and it comes from Exodus 20:15. If you want to charge over there and read it, you can. What does it say? You shall not steal. You shall not steal. 8th commandment. I think as we think about stealing, I don't know anybody hardly that hasn't been a victim of theft. Anybody here that somewhere along the way have you not? Anybody that's not? I believe all of us have been a victim of theft. Stealing is really rampant. It's unbelievable that so much stealing goes on. And we also, I think, not only have we been a victim, we may have already in our lifetime somewhere along the way stolen something. If you look at God's definition of stealing, he broadens it out where it includes lots of things that we might not think of otherwise. Now, I was when I was a senior in college, had a roommate that was in law school, and he and I went to a fair one night. And as the fair closed down, we were leaving, and some of the people that had displays there had already left. This was an area where an office had set up a display. It was dark. They had already closed out. There was the desk in the tent that they used. And as we walked by, I noticed a little clock, little office clock sitting on a desk clock. And I thought, well, they've left it. Now they're not going to come back. I picked it up. That's my confession for the day. I've thought about that over and over and over. I wanted to get it back, and they'd already cleared out before I got to get it back to them. But, stealing has an impact on us. No doubt about it. And if we examine close enough, I bet there would be something that we could relate to as far as each one of us may have somewhere along the way taken something that belonged to someone else. The definition of stealing is that it's taking another person's property without their permission and with the no intent of ever returning it. You steal it and you have no intent of returning it. And of course the 8th commandment forbids theft. It forbids it for one reason, because it's greedy. It's lustful. It really is the epitome of selfishness when you think about it. To take something that belongs to someone else. Material and tangible things we usually think about, but as you're going to see with God's definition, it goes far beyond the material and the tangible. There are many other ways that we can steal, and it would fall generally under the definition of you shall not steal. There's two things about this 8th commandment that are kind of different. One is it encompasses all the other commandments. Every one of them, if you take time, are encompassed by the idea of you shall not steal. Think about it. Adultery we studied, I guess, just last week. Adultery certainly is stealing. It is stealing not only from the victim or the people that are involved with it. Rape would be, I was a little bit different, but the victim there. But in adultery, the people that are involved, they are committing a sin that does rob someone, may rob themselves of their reputation, but it robs a spouse of the involvement of their with another person. So all of them, look back, you shall, what would be another one? Honor your father and mother. That's stealing if you don't, isn't it? The honor and the respect that's due to a mother and father, and it's denied them. It's taken away from them. It's stolen. Even have no other gods before me. God's a jealous God, and He expects our honor, our respect, our worship. And if we don't give it to Him, we're robbing Him of that. So it's stealing. So all the other commandments somehow fall under this one, thou shalt not steal. But also another unique thing about it, it's open-ended. It just says, thou shalt not steal. You shall not steal. Steal what? Anything, right. That's the answer. If there's no definition there. It's left open. So it's open-ended. It could be anything that we steal, that we take, that's not ours, with the intent of never giving it back, and really not taking into account, too, the impact that it has on the people that might be involved. So I want to just mention 4 things about stealing, and there could be a lot that would you could add to it, but number 1, and I hope you didn't come just for this, we had a good spaghetti dinner, but number 1, what would you say? I would say stealing is a serious offense to God. That is a duh, isn't it? Duh, yeah. But we need to stop and think about it, I think. Just for a minute to think about how serious it is to steal. It is a sin. And, after all, it made the top 10 list, didn't it? It's serious business. If you look at the Scripture, you go through the Scripture, you're going to find Old Testament and New Testament a lot of teachings about stealing. So the Scripture deals with it, God deals with it through the Scripture and tells us how wrong it is. You can start, and we could look at several Scriptures, but if you go to Leviticus is filled with teachings about stealing. Leviticus 6, 1 through 5 talks about if you take something from another person, or even if you borrow something from another person and that is stolen, you're responsible for it. And the idea, especially in the Old Testament with the Israelites, was you would restore that. That would be the punishment, if you will. You had to restore it, sometimes even 4 times what you've stolen. So Exodus 21:16, if you look at that, although the general usual punishment, if you will, was to restore what had been stolen, Exodus 21:16 talks about kidnapping. And it actually says, if you take a man, I guess it'd be a woman too. I don't know whether it's any offense to take a woman or not, but taking a man for sure. If you take a man, then you've committed a serious offense, and the punishment is death. That's one case where it's death. And if you think about taking another person. Think about taking girls now and selling them into slavery. I would say if there's any place that the death penalty is justified, that would be right there. Right. Taking a child from its family and giving that child into slavery for the rest of their lives, maybe. Leviticus 19:11 says, you shall not steal or deal falsely through lies to one another. You go to Psalms and Proverbs and prophets, you're still going to find words about stealing, about how wrong it is. So, Old Testament, lots of scriptures that we could look at. But New Testament, think about the New Testament and the teachings in the New Testament and the warnings about stealing. Mark 10:19. You remember that scripture would be talking about the rich young ruler. And in the first place, Jesus mentioned him all of the commandments. Not all of them, but about 5, I guess. Several of the commandments. And one of those was, do not steal, that he reminded the rich young ruler about. So, in the New Testament, with Jesus' own words, he talked about stealing being wrong and told the man, you should be keeping these commandments. You should be living a life where you're not stealing. Matthew 6:19. Can't read my writing, so y'all will never know what Matthew 6:19. Let's jump on over to John 10, verse 10. Think about it. John 10:10. You recognize that verse, don't you? About the abundant life. But how does the verse start off? It says, the thief comes only to steal, but I come to bring you abundant life. So the thief, Jesus recognized again what happens when we are involved in stealing. Thief comes to take away from. 1 Corinthians 6:9-10 talks about thieves and covetousness and rioting and drunkards and all of those people, including the ones who steal, what? Shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. Does that sound pretty serious? I say it does. So stealing is a serious consequence, a serious sin, serious activity that we can be involved in. And we think not only about the act itself and about the one who commits it and about the one who is a victim, but we think in terms of not that they had something taken from them, but emotionally it may have a big impact on them. Many times victim has horrible kinds of feelings. I do. The times that I remember when something was stolen from me, I didn't like it at all. And it left me feeling very vulnerable. And you never know. You know, when someone steals, they may take something, they may not realize it, but it may be a very precious article to the person they're stealing from. And because of that, he or she may have carryover kinds of feelings from it. And it does leave us feeling vulnerable and unsafe. People have things stolen right from the yard in their house at night or from in the house during the daytime, whatever. And it leaves them vulnerable, feeling that they're not really safe. Meryl and I were in Florence, Italy. Not Alabama, but Florence, Italy. And we had been told by our guide, be very, very careful because there'll be some people walk up and grab your purse, women especially, and take money from it. And so we knew that, and Meryl had her purse up on her shoulder with a strap, had her purse down under her arm, and we were walking down the street, and all of a sudden, some of these young girls came running up to us, and they had a newspaper, and they held it up pretty high, and they banging on that newspaper. And of course, Meryl looked at it. I was behind her, protecting her, and I looked up at it, and sure enough, before we knew it, I mean like that, the girls were running down the street with her billfold that they'd taken out of her purse. Well, Mariella in particular, and me also, I guess, felt very vulnerable after that. Very unsafe. We wondered what's going to happen next.